Okay, we will call this regular council meeting to order for December the 12th. And I'll begin with Councillor Bates giving the land acknowledgement.
The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll go into the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? Okay, can I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barkley, I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, we will move on to 3.1, the regular council meeting minutes for November the 28th. And if there's no changes to that anyone sees, I'll have somebody please make a motion to adopt the minutes.
I'll make that motion, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Hunstead.
Mayor Barkley, I do notice on it that it had me as present, and I was. Yes, that was last Monday's. No, it wasn't.
No.
Sorry,
Yes.
my mistake.
That's okay, yeah. Had to make me think there for a moment. Okay, so a motion, all in favor? Okay, thank you, carried. And then the agenda and priorities meeting for December the 12th.
I would move that those minutes, please, be accepted.
Okay, thank you. And I was just going to mention, Kara, I don't know if it matters, but under my name, you have, I think, upcoming events, like under both things, as opposed to one was the previous week events. Just under the roundtable stuff. It's not a big deal, but upcoming and upcoming.
I will change
Yeah,
that.
no worries. Yeah. Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. And we will move into 4.1 with the CAO report with CAO Becker, please.
Hello, Council. Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Just a few notes for Council for your consideration. Certainly invite any questions within the report or outside the report. Recently, Town Administration and Mayor Barkley met with a representative from AHS just regarding EMS, so EMS services, more specific to the region, but more specifically to Innisfail. So what was promised at the time, and we're still waiting for some data just regarding specific stats in relation to EMS services for Innisfail. Just from the notes I took, you can see in this report in 2020, 2021, there were 848 ambulance transfers, 460 advanced life support, 242 basic life support, 68 non-ambulance support, and eight stars related service calls. What I can state that there is some work being had with AHS and the area just regarding EMS services, and we've heard of the 10-point plan. In just respect of the AHS representative and some of the detail that was provided, some of that discussion will filter into your in-camera discussion. But it was a really positive meeting with more meetings to be had based on what AHS is stating to us. So really optimistic that they identify the service as being strained, but looking at some mechanisms to help address those challenges. Just wanted to let Council know, and you probably saw it through your emails, that the Energy's Futures Energy Hub related EFL work has started through Director Jenkins, has coordinated the Energy Fair, which has taken place at the St. Marguerite School on December 19th and 20th. If you have time, please come and check it out and see what's going on there. And there's also some other discussions occurring, not yet ready to report to you, Council, just regarding the other initiatives and just setting some of those game plans forward, action plans associated to those Energy Hub related activities. Just recently, Mayor Barkley and I met with representatives from Alberta Innovates and Red Deer Polytechnic as two key stakeholders and service providers for our region. And again, this meeting was really beneficial. Both parties, Alberta Innovates and Red Deer Polytechnic, wish to become involved with the Energy Hub and help with some of these initiatives. Again, more detail to come with that as we start meeting more and gathering more detail. As I told you last week, I come back to you, Council, just regarding council meetings and how that plays within the calendar associated with the festive season. What I'm recommending is that December 19th, next Monday, be considered a regular council meeting. And not that I'm expecting for you to have a large agenda item, but just the ability to make decisions on the 19th due to the large gap of time. Looking at December 26th, not having a council meeting and not meeting then until Tuesday, January the 3rd. So there's a lot of time in there. So we just want to be able to make decisions or have you give us guidance formally as required. So based on your agreement of that, looking for a motion. And that's my report.
All right, thank you, CEO Becker. Could I please have somebody make the first motion that is recommended for the council meetings?
Mayor Barclay, I'll make the first motion that agenda directs administration to advise the December 19th, 2022 and the January 3rd, 2023 agenda and priority meetings as regular council meetings.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Bates?
So just one quick question. So then the January 3rd being a council meeting as well, will there be three scheduled in January or?
Mayor Barclay, Councillor Bates, I would advise just leaving it as is during that time. So yeah, you'd have January 3rd, the 10th would be back to back too.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, anything else? No, all in favor? Okay. Is Councillor Maceras, sorry, I kind of forgot, just wanted her to say aye.
Yeah, aye.
Thank you. And then the second motion that we have somebody please make a motion to accept the CEO report.
I so move the council approves the Chief Administrative Officer's report dated December 12, 2022 as information.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, questions? No, all in favor? Okay. Is it possible, like, can we see Councillor Maceras' hand even if her video is off? Okay.
Mayor Barkley, my video is on.
Oh, okay. You don't have to if you don't want to. I think we can still see your hand, correct?
I can turn on the hand icon if that's what you'd like.
Yeah, just so we can see that you're voting, and if it's easier than having to say aye or nay every time. I know that's kind of awkward, having been there, done that before.
Okay,
Then we'll move into 4.2, council action control. And when somebody's ready, we'll have a motion to accept this.
I'll move that we accept the council action control as information.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about Councillor Hystad?
Yeah, just a couple questions, actually. We have victim services is on here, and with the dates, like I know that some of them are crossed out, right? I think that one's an ongoing, but it says October. And then there's also a FCM one that I had brought forward a while back, and it says November. So we haven't actually addressed that, and I think we can in the new year. And then also with the CP grant, that one just seems to, so should we be putting those dates forward? If I'm looking at the control itself, so the first one is the victim services is October 2022. And if they fall off, I believe that we cross them out, correct?
Yeah, it hasn't fallen off. It's ongoing. And
Okay.
that one. And FCM, I guess, was you looking to run for a board position?
Yeah. What I'd like to see is if we address that in the new year, because we talked about training and opportunities for all of us when we did our budget. So I think it's important for me to address that as FCM in January. I think that would be good to, just to make sure that we're due process with that one.
Okay, and
And then there was the CP rail one that is on there as well that I was looking at.
yeah, the CP rail is done,
And
I think.
Mayor Barkley, I can speak
See
to the.
Becker, yeah.
So the first one, Victim Services, we had a recent report to council, give you options for consideration as you received that report as information. Right now, there's no further direction. So unless there's other direction, right now it's sort of watching the lobby and advocacy of municipalities. If you wish to join that, that's something to consider, but this item from administration perspective is complete. The CP grant, we acknowledged to you that there is no grant available. We had some conversation. The thread is still going between administration and CP on the final billing. We heard word it's final billing, but through the director, we're confirming is this final billing. But right now, we've heard that there's no grant associated with that project. FCM, part of that motion, I believe, is correct. You put in the budget, unless you don't approve the budget, but right now you have money in your budget for FCM attendance. That I think addresses part of that directive. And that's, if there's any questions to those comments.
I guess for my part on the FCM, I think it'd be best for me to bring it forward in January with further details. As to the victim services piece, I think that's, like we bumped it along the way. I think we will need to make a decision on that no matter what. And I think it's important that even if we cross it out and we add a new date to it, it keeps it much more relevant. And as to the CP rail, that's, I believe there's ongoing thread, but I would say I'd have it in the new year, just so that how I'm looking at this is if somebody from the public looks at it, they know that we're addressing it further down the line rather than us not. That's how I'm looking at it. So I could be off.
No, I think with victim services and Alberta municipalities have certainly picked up on that advocacy piece, and it's one of their top priorities right now. And there's a letter in our package today from the minister with respect to a response with respect to victim services and what's going on. So, and I think, we have met with victim services and decided at that time that they're going to do some of their own advocacy work and kind of see where things shake out, I believe, and like in town here. So, it's somewhat sensitive right now. And so I think, with Alberta municipalities pushing on this topic, that that's part of our push as well. Unless you want to do something specific, then I would encourage you to make a motion to say, here's what you want us to do.
No, for myself, it was just more identifying it when we're going to mark it, where we're watching it. That was it. As to the Alberta munis and everybody else, I have my own bent on, I think that Alberta munis has to lead this for our fellow colleagues across the province. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept action control. All in favor? Councillor Maceras, does she have her hand up? No? Did we lose her?
Councillor Maceros.
That's okay, Carrie, she's there, it's fine. So we'll move on to 5.1, 2022 capital projects overview with Director Kennedy, please.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. So if you want to just do the site plan, I'll just do a quick overview. If you want to go to the next one, Kara. Just a quick overview of 6 of the projects that we actually have some video on after this to provide you. So what we have are just an overview of some of the projects that we completed this year. First one being 46th Avenue. Approximate value, 1.1 million. And we replaced the 800-meter long wood wall with a concrete precast panel wall, completed by Lakeview Contracting. Second, we have the Eastgate Lift Station, currently still under construction and commissioning for this week. That is replacement and of the existing lift station and shed for the communications, and installing a new backup generator. During construction on this project, we did come across some unforeseens, which has thrown the project over budget just slightly. We're projecting probably about a $20,000 overrun on that project, so that's to be finalized here, though, coming up. 2022 surface improvements. That one we had 6 sections of area in town here, 5 sections of area in town where we did various road improvements. That project was completed by Border Paving. And then we had Napoleon Playground. This was our first fully accessible playground, completed by Town Forces, the Kinsman Club, Variety Club, and Park and Play. We were successful in a grant, getting about $25,000 in grants and donations for the playground. And then we have the outdoor rink, completed by Reward Construction. This is our first full-size boarded rink, complete with lighting, basketball hoops, as well as full markings within the facility. We were able to get a financial donation by the Rotary Club, which went towards the basketball hoops and playing surface painting. And then we had the heliport reconstruction. This was completed by Timcon Construction, reopened again here in November. The Rotary Club and Nihil Valley 4-H Beef Club both provided financial donations towards this project as well. So these are just over half of the projects that we completed for the capital program. In total, there were 25 projects listed, totaling just over $7 million. Other than the one project, we were successful with being on or within budget of all the projects except one. So fairly successful year overall, I would say.
Yeah, congratulations, very successful year.
Yeah.
So. Director Kennedy, do you have any time frame with the grand opening for heliport, or are you going to leave that till warmer weather arrives, or?
Yeah, so we did order the plaques, so they anticipate plaques to be done probably end of January.
Okay.
So we'll come back in January with maybe more of a date that we can pick.
Sure, when it's warm.
Yeah, same with, I know we want to plan probably a grand opening for the playground and the outdoor rinks and all of those things, so we'll try and come back to you with some dates for those as well.
Perfect, thank you. So could I please have someone make a motion to accept this report as information?
If I may, Mayor Barkley, if we can just play we do have a flyover video of all of the,
Oh,
of
okay.
these projects anyway, if we can
Okay,
just provide
sure.
that for you.
that's fantastic, and yeah, I can see it's getting a lot of traction on Town of Innisfail Facebook and stuff, so it's great. Congratulations to everybody.
I would make the motion, Mayor Barkley, that council accept the report as information.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, discussions about anything? No? Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. And we will now move on to 6.1 with Director Vickers and the 2023 budget.
Can you hear me through this, or should I take it down? Okay. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor Barkley. And I'm here to present the 2023 budget deliberation, or the budget for your discussion and approval. Kara, if you just want to bring up the PowerPoint, please. So the 2023 operating and capital budget, budget deliberations were held by council on November 24th, 25th, and 29th in council chambers. These sessions were these sessions were advertised to the public, and was available to attend in person and by live feed on all 3 days. When going through your budget, we did take deep care with your strategic priorities. So the 4 main pillars were a connected community that fosters a sense of belonging, a robust and adaptable economy, respect for our environment, and provide strong leadership. So in the 2023 budget is broken down as follows. So our operating revenues are $25,820,181. And that is the same for the operating expenses as well, which leaves us with a contingency of 0. Our capital budget for next year will be $4,374,000 and a projected reserve balance of $14,394,511. So the budget has incorporated a 4% COLA increase for all staff. Upon completion of a performance review that we're in the middle of right now, a level of merit increase may also be obtainable for staff members. When looking at salaries, we did look and compare COLA rates with neighboring municipalities. And we did compare relatively similar to non-unionized municipalities. And CPI, we normally look at CPI for October to October, which we did. And it right now is currently sitting at 6.9% for October. So our current staffing levels are, we have 62 full-time, 19 part-time, 28 firefighters, and 2 vacant positions. They're full-time positions. And we did have some summer staff put in the budget as well. The parks number was 9, and it was removed down to 8 through the deliberation process. Okay, so our taxation and assessment. So our 2023 estimated tax assessments for the town have been projected an assessment increase of 2.52%. And we have actually increased, we're doing a tax increase of 4% for the 2023 budget. This will generate an additional $335,000 in tax revenue for the town. And a property with a tax assessment of around $320,000 will see a tax increase of approximately $7.46 per month. Now, when we receive our assessments from our assessors, it is not the final assessment. This is just an estimate. We get our final assessments in February. So once we actually receive those final assessments in 2023, the tax rate may change up or down depending on what it is, so we can still meet the taxable number in the budget. And as well, the provincial government is expected to pass its budget in the spring, and then at that time we'll know what the education amounts are going to be. And then at that time, council will set the mill rates based on actual assessments received by our assessors, and combined tax and assessment notices will be mailed out by the end of April 2023. I did add this slide in again. We did see it previously during budget deliberations, and this was just some projected tax increases across the province to show that these tax increases are all over the place. It's not just Innisfail that's seeing this tax increase. And I also just wanted to show what our historical tax mill rates have been. So in the last 8 years, we've only had a tax increase in 2019 and then in 2022. So in this budget, we are looking at building some debt capacity. So in two different areas. So the first area is building capacity to pay for a future aquatic recreation center, whatever that's going to look like. So what we've done here is in the years of 24, 25, and 26, we've done an additional tax increase of 1.75 specifically for debt repayment. We're going to increase the transfer to the reserves in those corresponding years. And by 2026, we will have a total going into our facility reserve of $910,900. And based on the approximate bill or payment, it would be about $902,000 each year. So now by the end of 2026, we have built in the capacity to pay for the debt for the new pool. Another area in debt is that for our Southwest Industrial Land. So we are recently doing a $5.5 million project in the Southwest Industrial Land to get it ready to sell those lots for sale. We did add $264,000 for the debt repayment in our subdivision land department. And that is coming from, and that is going to be paid back through the sale of the lands. Is there any questions on that, or should I just keep going? Okay, so we do have some franchise fees. Franchise fees are payments made by utility companies for rights for utility distribution services within our municipality. Utility companies then raise funds to cover the cost of these fees by charging their customers within that municipality. Funds collected through franchise fees helped fund municipal operating budgets. So we have opted to keep the franchise fees the same in this budget. ATCO at 27, Fortis at 17. However, there has been a hiccup with the Fortis franchise fee, and it is currently only being charged to the residents at 15% instead of 17%. That should have changed at the beginning of last year. So while we're not seeing a change in the budget, we will be looking to potentially increase that up to 17 as well. We will be talking with Fortis over the next couple of weeks to iron out all those details, and we will come back to you with that as well.
CEO Becker?
If I may add into
absolutely.
the director's comments, so what we determined with that, the hiccup, so there's, within the 2022 budgets, you're gonna see less surplus of about 50 to 60,000. So there's a shortfall, anticipated budget of 50 to 60,000, which would come on your year end, so less surplus due to this, this situation, I guess you could say, with Fortis. Also, the 2023 budget represents a shortfall. If like, so we're budgeting for 17%. We've collected for 15. So in order to get to 17, so the budget represents 17, but we're only collecting 15. So we need, it's about 180,000, it's approximate, that we need to basically come up with. So administratively, we're meeting with Fortis tomorrow to really learn more of the situation. Likely I'd come back to you to get a motion to maintain that 17%, which means businesses, citizens, schools, all parties would be then required to make up that $180,000.
But I'm guessing that a notice could go out in utility bills explaining the situation. I mean, people basically have got a break for the last year, not having the increase, and now the increase will be there. That should have been there last year, correct?
Yeah, correct. It's certainly, we want to make sure you're aware, but first of all, but the public is aware.
Yeah.
Until if I have all the detail as of tomorrow, I cannot give you any further detail on the, what it's looking like is information went, information wasn't received based on the council's motion and the advertising requirements last year. So yeah, once we have the information, I can better advise you next Monday of all detail. Then I'd probably advise you again to make a motion to maintain that 70%. But for you to be aware that, what does that mean? It means that all parties will be required to achieve that 2%.
Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I heard that correctly. So this would be going forward. There wouldn't be anything retroactive?
No, just again, the retroactive is the less surplus
Right.
to achieve that 50 to 60. And why it's less is because due to the timing of the franchise fee arrangement, so we have to advertise, so we're not collecting first quarter of 2022. That's why it's less. So we're not collecting a full year. It's kind of overshadows into the next year a bit too, so. So again, we'll come back to you, full detail. We'd advise public, of course, with proper messaging, just so people understand what has occurred. I think there's a question, remember?
Your worship, yeah, the only thing that I would say about bringing it back to the public is if we just have it laid out like in this, this manner, so it just shows it, explains it properly if anybody's online next week, so they understand that piece and that they understand where that crossover is. I think it's really important to have those details, especially if people are jumping online rather than verbally telling them. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to utilities now. Excuse me. So utilities, we are seeing some increases. So the water rate is increasing from 271 to 286. This is to incorporate an 11-cent increase from the commission, and then that gives us a 4-cent increase to cover inflationary costs in the department. The wastewater rate is also increasing. It's going from $3.60 up to $3.80. We have received a 13-cent increase from the commission, and then also to work towards user-based balancing at this point in our our wastewater department. We do have to pull from reserves to balance out that department. So, okay. All of the other flat charges for water, wastewater, storm, and garbage are staying the same for 2023. And a monthly utility bill should see an increase of about $2.60. And that's based on 10 cubes of water consumption. Okay, and even with these increases in our utilities, I just did an estimate of water bills in this just local area. And we have our increases. None of the other municipalities have had their increases put into these numbers. So these are 2022 numbers for them, 2023 numbers for Innisfail. And we're still quite low comparative to just our local neighbors. So some of the increases to the operating expenses for 2023 are, so we are seeing some increased RCMP operational costs at $114,000. There's some new staffing costs at $205,000. That increased transfer to reserves at $1.5 million. Now that is specifically due to us selling land in the Southwest Industrial area, and that will be going into the land reserve to then be used to pay back that loan. So even though it's increased, it's away from money. And then we also have some increased energy costs, so that is electricity and natural gas of $133,000. So I did list out our operating projects. So we do have the Community Safety Initiative for $20,000. That's carried over from 22 to 23. We have our infrastructure study update at $15,000. We have some sidewalk repairs. We're replacing the wood bullards. That's at Centennial Park. New trees and replacement of trees for $15,000. We have tree removal of $11,000. We're doing some catch basin repairs. That's 10 of them. We're doing a renovation at Reservoir 1. We're doing a valve repair replacement program. Some age-friendly initiatives as well. Some downtown initiatives. This could be things like marketing for businesses or events downtown or things like that. We did add back in $10,000 for public art. We do have the arena sprinkler program at $18,000. There's some pool projects for $25,000. That's the men's partitions and some fixtures that need to be replaced. And we're going to do some building condition assessments at the Kemp House and the shop. So we do have some requisitions and grants in this budget. So we do give the Innisfail Library a grant every year. In this year, it's $155,925. Parkland Regional Library also receives $70,000 from us. The Historical Village, for the first time in many years, saw an increase up to $30,000 this year, up from $27,000. Now this says the Legion, but likely it won't be the Legion this year. It is for the PACE bus transportation program, whatever that may look like. That is up to $96,000 this year, and that likely isn't a full year cost either. So the FCSS grants to others did go down a little bit, down to 120. They opted to increase the internal programs, so we might do a little bit more internal programming in the FCSS this year. Our community grants is at 13,000, and our solar farm is at 20,000. So that's the that elemental energy grant that they give us. So. Okay, so the 2023 capital budget was reviewed during budget deliberations, and the final list is attached to the report, but we can go over that as well. And the total capital budget is $4,374,000. Capital projects are funded primarily by provincial and federal grants, as well as reserves. Would you like to go through the list specifically? Yeah, okay. Okay. So under administration, so we do have the town office fire system at $15,000. And that is the system so that we'll have a fully integrated fire system for this whole building, including, we do have a tenant that's attached to this building as well, so it would also include that building. The town office entry, so we do have those nice paving blocks out at the front. They constantly lower, creating tripping hazards, and we have to remove them, remove them and re-level them and redo them every year. So this would give us the opportunity to remove them and put down cement so that we wouldn't have to do that anymore. And also we're gonna do a town office generator preparation. So this would just be all the wiring for a generator in the case that we had an emergency and we had to rent a generator. Under protective services, so we do have the fire hall roof replacements and repairs for $66,000. And then we also have a new vehicle for the new assistant fire chief for $75,000. Under the roads, so we do have 2023 surface improvements. And I'll just go to that so we can. So there's 5 different projects under this project. So the first one is 40th Street from 51st Avenue to 49th Avenue. We have 42nd Street from Highway 54 to 60th Ave. So that requires a new sidewalk and a multi-use trail to connect to Bella Vista. Replacement of paved lanes in various areas. Priorities will be based on the lane assessment that was completed in 2021. Trail replacement at the Napoleon Park Sports Field. So there was some trails that were disturbed when we redid the outdoor rink in the park, and now we need to replace that. And then 40th Street close from 40th Street to the end requires a new sanitary main. So that total project is $1.3 million. And that is going to be funded from MSI and then the balance from reserves. So we are looking at doing a backhoe replacement for $210,000, as well as a new gravel plow truck box for $100,000. And then we're replacing a 2000 Ford F-350 service truck, but it's going to be replaced with a newer, used 1-ton flat deck picker unit. So that does cost $120,000. As well, we do have the Ford Freestyle that is used for staff when they need to travel and go to meetings or whatever. We are looking to trade that in and get a hybrid vehicle potentially. It will be the first hybrid of our fleet. And that would be $40,000. Under utilities, we do have the 46th Avenue infrastructure replacements for $775,000. And then we also have 45th Street close. We're going to scan and do a road replacement on that for $418,000. We have the Cannon Park playground replacement. Its total budget is $160,000, where we do have a donation, or it's scheduled to have donations upwards of $10,000, and then $150 coming out of reserves. The senior center air conditioning, they have requested that they get air conditioning, which makes sense. So that costs $25,000, so that will happen next year. The LLC needs some roof repairs done for $12,000. In the arena, we do need some dressing room flooring and partitions completed for $180,000. And we need an arena header trench fitting replacement for $100,000. And then we have some arena exterior cameras. With the addition of the new arena and park back there, there's going to be increased public behind the arenas, and we just want to make sure that everything's safe. And then we have some aquatic center maintenance repairs for $730,000. Now, while that's large money, it is a building that we want to make sure that we can maintain far past its life as a pool and repurpose it as a different building. Primarily the largest cost, is for the roof replacement. So. Okay, was there any questions on any of those, or did you want to ask anything?
Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, and MSI grant funding was decreased for years 21 through to 23. We received $847,106 for capital projects in 2022, and we'll receive the same as in 2023. This is approximately half of what we have received in previous years. And in 2024, MSI will be replaced with the Local Government Fiscal Framework, which is LGFF, and still the detailed breakdown are still unknown at this time. And then the 2023 reserves show that budgeted additions from the operating budget of just over $3 million and a withdrawal of $3 million. So this leaves a balance of $14,394,511. However, I do, just for those additions, most of that increase is because of the land sales. Okay, so if there's any questions, I'll try to answer any questions. If not, I'd like to look for the motion to approve the budget.
Okay, thank you, Director Vickers. Any questions about anything? If not, I'll have somebody make a motion that we approve the 2023 operating and capital budgets.
I so move that we approve the 23 operating and capital budgets as presented.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. Any questions, discussion? Councillor Hystad?
Yeah, I'm just curious how we're going to communicate overall, like with the community, and I think that's a big thing that it'd be really important for us to get in front of it. I know there was a lot of deliberation for all of us. I think there's ways to improve and to look inward as a team to help us get through it. I think this is I want to give a lot of credit to Erica and the CEO and the rest of the directors for the work that they've done this. But I also see things where we need to improve, and I've expressed where certain areas in the past few days where I see that, and I'm not here to be critical, but I think there's ways to improve and make sure that we communicate as a team.
Okay, so do you want to expand on that, Councillor Hystad, like the last few days?
No, when I talk about I think that there was an article in the paper about budget increases and those pieces and where we're going. I think that I actually think that some of those discussions or that presentation should be after we pass this, in my mind. I'm just one guy out of 7, right? But there was things talking about COLA and pieces like that I think that should have been more internal as a group. I think there was comments that I made on COLA and where I stood on it, but I think that I felt like I was talking. I think it would have been better in camera with some of those discussions for myself personally. And as to overall, I think we're doing a great job. I love the video. I think that our staff are doing a great job, our directors and CEO. But there's ways to improve to communicate it to the citizens. And that's just me. Thank you.
Mayor Barclay.
Yeah, Director Vickers.
Thank you. So I would just like to say that we do have a media release that has been prepared that will be released either tonight, potentially right after this, or first thing tomorrow morning. And then we're also preparing documentation that will go in the utility bills in January, as well as stuff that might go in the voice or things like that as well.
Yeah, there's also been some discussion about doing some video pieces
Yes,
as
that's
well.
correct. Sorry,
so
Mayor Barclay, I
around
forgot
the
about that, yeah.
budget, so.
I may add, if council is finding that you need a little bit more detail on projects too, just reach out through me, and I'd be happy to help you with your engagements with the community.
Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. So I felt, and I've expressed this, I felt I was at a bit of a disadvantage, as Councillor Mazeros is right now, because trying to participate in these kinds of conversations online is just really hard. But, so as a result of that, I've sat up at night giving my second municipal budget process a lot of thought. And I don't find it to be an intuitive process yet, and I think that's because I spent too many years on the administrative side of the budget, and so it's not, it doesn't hit me in my gut yet, but I think that as I've been thinking about it, it's like I don't think that we, and I put my hand up here, I don't think that we engage as much as we could when we get our quarterly financial statements. Financial statements are historical data. We don't move it forward enough at this table to say, okay, that's where we are, or that's where we've come from, but what's coming next? I felt like I had some surprises in this budget that I shouldn't have been surprised. I shouldn't have been surprised. So that's just me personally. I feel like I need to, I think we could do a better job, even further to what Councillor Hystad said, around how we communicate with each other relative to this really important body of work. I was listening to Todd Hirsch this afternoon. Angus Reid has just released survey results indicating 56% of Canadians will spend less on their family Christmas celebrations than last year, and 50% of Canadians feel their financial situation is worse than it was a year ago. He stated that this is the most dismal rating that Angus Reid has had in over 12 years. So, as we move forward, provincial municipalities are facing significant struggles relative to MSI reductions. We've talked about that. There's a story there that we need to keep communicating and letting our community know about. My provincial taxes haven't dropped, and so someone's keeping a lot of money somewhere. I think that our budget reflects that reduction to a point, but I think, in good old can-do-it spirit, I think that we've really tried to make up the difference so that we don't have a reduction in services. And sometimes maybe it's time to step back and say, we just can't do everything with what we've got, and people need to understand why. So I struggle with the 4% tax increase, I do. And this isn't a surprise, I talked about this when we were doing our deliberations. The problem, I'm conflicted because I do support the projects and I do support the work. I think our administration is fantastic, as our staff is as well, but the 4% still kind of just sort of hits me in my gut. I felt like we spent 2.5 days cutting back to get to 4%, and I wasn't really sure or comfortable where that 4% really came from. I thought that we had said, oh, we'll start at 4 and work our way down instead of start at 0 and work our way up. So I think that we've got some processes that we just need to be more maybe clear about or improve as we go forward. I'm very supportive of starting to build our capacity relative to addressing our recreation facilities. That's another story that I think our community needs to be brought up to speed with now, is what does the planning process look like? Why won't we start saving money until next year? And what's that huge amount of work that's going to happen this year? So again, communications is so important. I really, really look forward to getting things like our reserves policy and our investment policy done, because those pieces of work are really important for our budget. And actually, I was doing some research. Communities do have budget policies that sort of tie those things together. And so, yeah, not having the reserve policy, I think when we began this process, I think that will help us. We'll be better at that next year once we get that policy work done. And yeah, I think I've learned a lot through this process. So thank you for bearing with me. This past year, 2022, we lost a staff member. We took advantage of the fact that we had some capacity. So we reclassified that work, hired a different level of manager into that role because we could, but then now we have to live with that as we move forward. And I think some of those decisions are important that we keep in front of us. It's the same with our assistant fire chief. It's like, well, we saved money because we're not going to hire them until May. It's still a 1.0 FTE, and starting next year, it's in there for the entire amount. So again, just being aware that we're not deck chairs, we just need to keep those numbers in front of us. So thank you, administration, for your diligence and your hard work and having to suffer all of our questions. It's been a good process, but I just wish we had a different result.
Councillor Bates.
I'm still processing everything that Councillor Wing said. Thank you for that. So we did have the little conversation about the franchise fees. So if we're going to have a release today or tomorrow for the tax, I assume once we get that totally sorted out, we'll try and get out a communication to our citizens separate about that. Is that correct?
Member Berkeley, Councillor Bates, yes, I would advise to do something specific to the Fortis piece. Anything else specific to the budget as directed. We have a press release according to this budget, if you pass the budget today, to be released at the end of day today.
Okay. And so that would have the components of utilities, the taxes, and the potential assessment, those three components. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Councillor Harrison?
Continuing on that vein of communication, when you do, if we release today the press release, can you copy council on that? That press release, just through an email? Thank you.
Berkeley, certainly can give it to council digitally, but you do have an in-camera part of your agenda. We can make copies for you and have it with you before you leave today.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the operating capital budgets for 2023 as presented. All in favor? Okay. Is Councillor Maceros on? Kara, is she gone now? It's okay.
Aye.
Okay, yeah, she said aye.
Can you
Yep.
hear me?
Yep, we did. Thank you, Councillor Maceros. Okay, we will move on to,
Member Berkeley, sorry to interrupt. I just, as per typical, I'd like to just acknowledge you, council, with putting up with administration and the complexity of our budget. We have a lot of moving pieces in operating and building our community, and it is a growing piece with the budget, your biggest policy. Just want to acknowledge you, council, with all your efforts with a very challenging budget. But also want to acknowledge the director, Vickers, not the director, the directors, but specifically to Director Vickers for her leadership in guiding the budget. It's a collaborative process where each director and team own their budget. It's not an Erica budget. It's a full team town budget, as well as to the manager Leith. So just want to give my appreciation to the work and the hours put in with the budget.
yeah, for sure, would certainly second that, and thank you. And, you know, just for council too, like if there's information you need, say, right? Ask for it, and they can only bring forward what they know we want. So we will move on to 6.2, request for decision on rates and fees bylaw with Director Vickers.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So I first brought the rates and fees bylaw to council for initial approval back on July 11th, and then another amendment on October 11th. And the intent was, when we brought it back, is that we would bring this back every year for approval after we did the budget to incorporate things like the utility fees, any other increases that we deliberated on through budget. So that's what we're doing here. So the first item we're being added was, it was missed, it was a FOIP request. So we do take FOIP requests from customers or from residents or anyone really. And this is really anytime they want any kind of information from us, they fill this out, they put all their name and information, they say exactly what they want. And traditionally they have to pay for it. So we did add that cost in there. And there is some regulations that fully detail what we can charge for FOIP. So we did add in the water and wastewater rates that were just approved in the 2023 budget. And then we did add some recreation advertising. So if you want to go down to the bylaw, just so we can have a quick look at those rates. Okay, so the very first one, you can see that the FOIP is just $25. That's the standard request. 99% of the time, that's all it is. If it's their own personal information, like, for example, if I wanted information out of my employee file, that's about me, it's no charge. So if someone was asking about, let's say, a complaint that was about them, there's no charge to that. So the utility services, that needs to get entered in there. So we'll add that in. And then the advertising, so these are all the advertising rates that were given to me by Megan. So this would be like naming, if someone wants to advertise the Blue Arena, it's $15,000 annually for a 3-year period, right? So they could name it, put their advertising for that Blue Arena or the Red Arena. Rink board advertising is $500. In-ice logo is $1,000. So we just added those in there for the arena, the aquatic center, and even other areas, right? If someone wanted to name the skate park, it would be $50,000 for a minimum 5-year term. And then the water rate will be $2.86, and the wastewater rate will be $3.80. Was there any questions on that? So the only thing that got changed from the budget was the water and wastewater rates. All these other items were not included in the last update.
Okay, Director Vickers, when you say like advertising the arena blue ice area, like would that be kind of naming
That would be
one
naming.
rink after whoever?
Yes, that would be
Okay,
naming
yeah.
of the ice of that rink. So you can do it for the blue ice, the red ice,
Yeah.
but then we have the rink board advertising as well.
Okay, and then the ice logo at Center Ice, did you mention, or maybe you mentioned, somebody mentioned that potentially we're doing that ourselves going forward? Or, because I think there was an external provider that came in and did that this year, and it was, like, certainly, it didn't, that $2,000 would not cover that?
I remember correctly,
Cost.
it's,
I thought they had to pay for that themselves.
yeah, no, it was charged back to the party that took the advertising. We coordinated, they wanted to coordinate it themselves as a revenue, but it's actually a municipal-driven program that we collect the revenue. So yeah, it's our program.
Okay, but I guess what I'm saying is we're charging $2,000 for the Center Ice logo, and it's costing us $3,000, for example, to do.
I don't. No, I don't believe that's.
It's not that? Okay.
I don't think so. No, I think
Okay.
it's a full cost on the party.
Okay.
Yeah, I can certainly clarify. I'll make sure.
Okay,
Yeah, no, we
thanks.
would not take a loss on an advertising program.
Yeah, that's my understanding too, that we would charge them the $2,000 for the revenue, and then even
Okay.
if we paid the $3,000, we would charge them the
Okay,
$3,000
so
for the
we'd be
expenses.
paying $5,000 then to get it done?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
fair enough. Councillor Bates?
My recollection on what we just did was, I think we did it for a 2-year thing, I thought.
Yep.
So it won't come back to us again for another year.
Yep.
And yeah, that was outside this program, I think, would be my guess. But
Mayor Barkley, Councilor Bates, because we didn't have a policy or a bylaw, it came to you directly.
Okay, so we'll go into the readings then, the
That's
motions.
correct. This is a very short one, though. There's only 4 instead of the 25 or 26 we had in past. So.
Okay, so I'll ask somebody to make the first motion, please. Councillor Dunham?
Mayor Barkley, I'll make the motion that council accepts and gives 1702-2022 rates and fees by law first reading.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Bates?
sorry, if we could scroll back to those fees, there was one that I hadn't asked before, and where are the mezzanine wall boards? I just want to. I just don't remember what they are. It's not that critical that it should stop the motion. And I'm imagining the mezzanine being up on the top level by the. And I just don't remember wall boards, but thank you. Maybe they're
Barkley.
to be created.
Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Bates, I'll definitely look into it, and I can send maybe an email out to council just to clarifying what that is.
Okay, so we have a motion, all in favor? Okay. Okay, carried. Now have somebody make the second motion, please.
I'll move that we give 1702-2022 rates and fee bylaw second reading.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? No, all in favor? Okay, carried. And then third reading, Councillor Heistad.
The council gives consideration for number 1702-2022 rates and fee bylaw third reading.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Okay, carried. And then accept and give third and final. Councillor
I'll make
Bates.
that motion, Mayor Barkley.
Oh,
It's God.
carry on, Councillor Maceras.
That council accepts and gives 1702-2022 rates and fees bylaw third and final reading.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? All in favor? All right, carried. Okay, we will move on to Manager Leith. Welcome to 7.1 in the Parks Bylaw.
So this has been a while in coming. Obviously, historically, we looked at this, I think, back in April of last year. So the Parks Bylaw regulates the access to behaviours events in our parks. Administration drafted the current bylaw based upon issues, trends, recent bylaws approved by other municipalities, and feedback from the Protective Services Department and input from legal services. Administration senior leadership has also reviewed the draft of this bylaw. A summary of the enhancements included in the new bylaw are as follows. Updates or new definitions, e-bikes, e-scooters. Camping prohibits lodging in vehicles. Quiet hours from 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. When the park shall be free from excessive noise that could disturb people sleeping. The park is also closed during quiet hours unless otherwise posted, or from dawn till dusk unless otherwise posted. Addresses any person creating nuisance or disturbance, ability to allow business activities to operate with the permission of the CAO, and addition of special event explanations, and the fines and fees schedule were updated. Strategic plan alignment to improve knowledge and acceptance and respect of bylaws and provide a safe community for citizens, groups and businesses.
You done,
Okay.
Councillor Leith? No? Waiting for the page to scroll through? Or So I have a question on the quiet hours. I find it a bit contradictory, like it's quiet from 11 to 7, but then we also say it's closed.
Your Worship, if you look further through section 11, it repeats back and says that the trails are still open during those hours, but just the actual park itself is closed. The parking lot is included in those definitions as being part of the park, and that allows enforcement to take place if activities in that parking lot are not conducive with what we would expect. So we are able to turn around and say at 11 o'clock it's a hard closed. If there's activities in that parking lot that we feel are not acceptable, it's closed. Trespass, fines and fees can be scheduled against individuals. It's a tool certainly to create hopefully a quieter atmosphere and a more successful way of allowing people to still continue to use the trails in those hours as well.
So that the dawn to dusk Manager Leith, like this time of year, you know, a little bit different than June. So I think the other thing it said was unless otherwise posted, or from dusk until dawn daily, unless otherwise posted. So like right now, if somebody's out, if they're just going to the park and using it at 6 o'clock at night, is that contravening this?
No, so again, it's about activities that we see as unsuitable for that environment, and it allows us, if at 8 o'clock in the evening on a winter's night that we're having unacceptable behaviours in and around there, this element of the bylaw allows us to provide enforcement.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Councillor Bates?
So I looked at the definitions and your introduction specifically mentioned e-bikes and scooters. The actual result of what affects them, is it just included in any of the comments about vehicles and speeds and pathways use, or is there something specific that I missed?
No, that was the intent.
Just to define them?
To define them, and obviously the application
They
of
have to apply to all the
speed limits and due caution, ability to give warning and those pieces.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Heisted?
Yeah, no, I just want to talk about the signage. If we could, get some more signage around town in the parks, that would be great. I think we've talked about it earlier with Centennial, but and as to the e-bike piece, I think that's going to be something that you'll have to monitor in the near future. I've seen some crazy stuff in Kelowna or other cities where people are doing well over 50K on a trail, like a pedal trail. So I guess that's something that we'll address when we see some of the behaviors. Thanks.
Just a question about how to frame this. If somebody was set up in the park and they were kind of marketing their organization, do they need a permit for that? Like, say, maybe a religious organization as an example.
I possibly would have to look into that, Your Worship. I couldn't give a definitive at this point.
Okay.
But again, it refers to the fact that we have to apply for special events, so to operate a business, if we would consider that to be a business at that point.
Okay, because that was happening a lot this past summer, every weekend. So I wasn't sure whether that fit into this or not.
I refer to my last,
Yeah.
take it
No,
on
thank you.
consultation.
Yeah, but you can
Yeah.
report back to CEO Becker.
On
Yeah,
the-
okay. Councillor Bates?
I just want to make a statement in defense of us e-bikers, because we had quite an explosion of vehicles this last summer, and I paid particular attention, being one of them. And I'd say overall, I really didn't see anything that concerned me at this point. Thank you.
Well, I have run into them on the trail around Napoleon Lake, and yeah, everybody's been very well behaved, so it's been perfect. So do you want to move into the, are you finished, Manager Leith, with your presentation?
I just ask Your Worship if you can give me some detail on the activities that you refer to. I'll look at getting some direction on that.
Yeah, we'll do that after. Okay. Councillor Heisted?
Can I rebuttal Councillor Bates on the e-bikes? I think it's going to go downhill. Haha.
So we have 3 readings for Park Bylaw 170322. So could I please have someone give first reading?
So move, Mayor Barkley, that we give first reading to bylaw, Parks Bylaw 1703-2022.
Thank you. Any further questions, discussion? All in favor? Have somebody please give second reading.
Mayor Barclay, I would move that council give second reading to Parks Bylaw 1703-2022.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Okay, and then we'll give consideration to third reading.
I'll move that we give consideration to third reading of 1703-2022.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? Councillor Maceras has her hand up. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And then we'll have someone give third and final, please.
Mayor Barclay, I'll move that council accepts and gives 1703-2022 third and final reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Then we will move on to 7.2, Emergency Partnership Agreement with Manager Leith.
Yeah, back in April of 2017, the town entered into a formal agreement with Red Deer Emergency Management in collaboration with a number of other small municipalities within Red Deer County, Sylvan Lake, Bowden, Elnora and Elban. The City of Red Deer has expressed a desire to move under this joint regional emergency plan. With this addition, the Alberta Emergency Management Agency recommended this regional collaboration should be formalised by forming an agreement between its members. The additional benefits of the regional coordination with formalising of the agreement will be capacity and resources and administrative, regulatory compliance and associated costs. So that's in reference to things like exercises and training. We can collaborate and that reduces the overall cost. A full event exercise can run into the region of $30,000 as an example, of which we're obliged to, under the regulations, to do one every 4 years. Information sharing, resource mobilisation and training as a region. This will be a single plan with appendixes for each community and will contain a copy of the bylaw and community emergency management risk assessment, a vendor list and any specialty plans such as flood plans or industrial plans that are within our community. The regional section of this plan will have all the common requirements such as re-entry templates and any common hazards such as weather, etc. On August 17th, the town's Emergency Advisory Committee supported the town of Innisfail in moving forward with the formalisation of this agreement. The sign of the agreement does not require any amendments to our current emergency management bylaw, and a draft is attached.
Thank you. Could I please have someone make the recommended motion?
Mayor Barclay, I would move that council approve the signing of a regional emergency management agreement.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Manager Leith about this agreement? No? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to 7.3, the numbered highways enforcement.
So currently our level 1 peace officers have no authority to take enforcement action on roads within the town of Innisfail where the speed limit exceeds 90 kilometres an hour. Highways 54 and 2A are used daily by residents, visitors and officers when accessing parts of Innisfail. If the officers see an infraction that would require intervention in a 100 kilometre zone, the only option currently is to contact RCMP. Under the Peace Officer Programme, the town of Innisfail can apply to the Justice and Solicitor General for expansion of authorities to include the number of highways with speed limits above 90 kilometres an hour. RCMP have been surveyed and they're supportive of this enhancement. Appendix A shows the enhancement locations. The intent of the enhancement is to provide opportunity to influence the behaviour of drivers coming to and from Innisfail. Notable areas of concern are Highway 54 and intersection of Lakewood Drive, 54 and 42nd Street, and 54 and 42nd Ave / Willow Ridge Road. And desired outcome is reduced speed and incidents accessing the town from 2A and Highway 54, and it aligns with our provide a safe community for citizens, groups and businesses.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have someone make the recommended motion?
So move that council approves the application to the Justice and Solicitor General for the Innisfail Peace Officers expansion of authorities to include numbered highways with speed above 90 kilometers per hour within the town of Innisfail corporate limits.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about this? Councillor Bates? You're
So
worried about the e-bike?
No, my e-bike's good. I am worried about my other e-vehicle, but no. So I just wanted to clarify, because it did say both 54 and 2A, and then I'm seeing the little orange stripe on the current, oh, I'm looking at my own iPad, there's a map with, just prior to the curve of the railway, that 2A is included in this as well, is that?
That's correct, yeah.
And as I think it should be, one thing just from a personal, when I travel 2A, which I do frequently, to Red Deer and back, Innisfail has a strange speed difference relative to the other communities in that we drop from 100 to 70, and we do it really quickly. And I just ask you to look at that for the future, that as to whether or not we can interact with whoever would, that's the provincial government, I'm sure, that would determine that, but it's quite different than as you enter Penhold, it's 80, and it doesn't drop near as quickly. And I think we would probably, if we had it signed better, we would probably have less speeding actually once it's down to the 70 and below. That's just, I know that's not relevant to this, but I think we should look at that.
Okay, any other comments, discussion? Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, just, I know C&E is one of those areas as well, C&E coming into town. Is that, I can see why you have these three, but is that an issue? Do you see that as an issue?
Your worship, through to Councillor Heistad, if you note that that's not 100 kilometres, so
Yeah.
it's 80 on
Yeah.
C&E trail. So if you're doing 100, then
They're doing 100, guaranteed. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion. All in favor of the motion? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Manager Leith.
thank you, worship, council.
We'll move into correspondence and information, 8.1. CEO Becker?
Well, I'll let you get to it. I thought
Okay.
you were just waiting for discussion.
I was waiting for the correspondence and information.
Yeah.
It's okay. I know you've got 14 things to do. Yeah.
Mayor Barclay, there is one thing I'd like to have a discussion with council on, and the CAO is the possible STARS-based visit email that we need to sort of come up with some dates, and I think we're coordinating with the Innisfail Legion.
Yeah.
And it looks like I'll be discussing tomorrow evening with our executive, and I spoke with Martin Ebel on Friday afternoon, and the best day for the public relations person or senior municipal relations liaison, Glenda, is the 26th. She's there all day, and she'd really like to meet both council and the executive from the Legion. So
What day is the 26th? Thursday?
Thursday.
Okay.
So I leave that with you.
So would the Legion be booking that, Councillor Harrison, or the town booking that?
Yes, I'll be speaking with Martin on
Okay.
behalf of the Legion, and if there's council rep or council members that would like to join us, and he certainly welcomes that, CEO Becker. So he's
That'd be
good.
great. Yeah, thank you for that. And did you have any comments, CEO Becker, on anything, the RCMP report, or?
Not so much RCMP,
Okay.
Mayor Barclay, but on the one grants, yeah, the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings grant, that's a large grant. That's in the second intake from the federal government. This is a grant that could line up really well with Aquatic Center. Other communities, Olds, I believe, have accessed this grant, and Drayton Valley with their
Legal.
large project.
Legal?
Legal, yes.
Yeah.
What I'm gonna do, council, is, I know you haven't seen the draft. It's coming to you in probably the draft validation report coming in mid-January. So I'd like to direct administration to initiate the grant application process, which is due end of February, but we don't use that as a target. We need to get a grant in as soon as possible. However, if we could start this grant application now with some of the details we have now, and come back to you once you are comfortable with the validation. If you're not, then, but it's really important that we make application. What I understand, of course, the grant's stating that end of February, make application. What I heard, and I haven't quite found it yet, is the grant needs to be expanded by the end of 2026. So it kind of lines up to what Director Vickers stated with the funding model. So it may just line up really nicely, so we'll start that process without formal council direction at this point.
You don't want a motion for that?
Certainly, I didn't know if you're comfortable or not without seeing any information, but we could certainly take that direction if you wish.
I will give a motion that
Okay.
we direct administration to apply for the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Grant.
Perfect.
Any questions about that? Councillor Bates?
So as I read it, it would or could apply whether it not be the new build or it be, retro or even repairs. So it's all of those, right?
Yeah, Mayor Barkley, to Councillor Bates, you're right. So right now, any new builds over 10 million is 50% funding on the grants. Any retrofits up to 10 million is 80% funded. So it's depends on what you're applying for. So again, we'll start the process, and as you get that detail, you can direct us, but we'll start the process administratively.
Perfect. Okay, all in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Then there's also a email in there from Minister Ellis with respect to victim services. One thing I thought was very positive in there, he mentions the what do they call it, non-chargeable files, I guess, and they seem to be committed to moving forward and making sure that stays intact, and even changing legislation if they have to keep that intact. So I wonder, CEO Becker, if Victim Services has this letter, or maybe we could send it to them, to send it to Mary Dawn, and yeah, assuming they got it, but if not. Councillor Bates?
Well, I think the other thing in that letter is pretty significant about, whatever falls out, that there'll still be something located within the RCMP of where you have them already. So it's still a work in progress big time, but it does eliminate some of the things that we thought might happen.
So we'll just have somebody make a motion to accept the correspondence's information, please.
Mayor Barkley, I would make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And then we will start with council reports. So we'll start with Councillor Dunham today.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I was sick for part of last week, so early on in the week I was not able to attend much, but I was able to make it out to the holiday train on Saturday for a little bit, and that's about it for me.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Maceros, sorry, he's in the wrong chair. Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, last week I spent my week just recovering, and I just have to say it's nice to kind of get back into it a little bit and to hear everybody's voices, and looking forward to seeing everybody in person before the year is over.
Okay, well, thank you, and we wish you a continued speedy recovery. Councillor Heistad.
Yeah, I was at the CP rail holiday train. That was good. It was cool because we had to warm up for about a half hour, 45 minutes because the train was a little late. Also, last week I had the village meeting, and actually during that meeting there was a donation of a tractor from my wife's uncle to the village, which was accepted. I think it's between 1929 1933 tractor, so it was kind of a neat project. So you'll see something on that in the near future in the paper. And I think it was a good day today as to our discussion and budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Bates.
So I don't know if Councillor Maceros can see into here really well, but you should have a surcharge on your position at the table here for Councillor Heistad. I attended MPC last week, And also the Waste Management Commission, that's the one with the landfill that we have to monitor for the, through 2030, I believe it is. They are undertaking, like it's a semi-annual meeting that they have. They're undertaking a project in 2023 to actually locate some of the leachate, where those levels are actually taken from, because believe it or not, I guess, even though they've been doing it for years, they don't exactly know where it's coming from and the level of the up and down. There are no current things that are causing concern. They just want to know that for background, so that's one of the big expenditures for next year. They're also looking at whether or not they need to spend as much money as they have been for audits. And there's some good news on the revenue front, which I don't think it'll change 2023, but it could and beyond, is that they do have pasture rent, and that's been renegotiated up 60%. And they do have a fairly healthy bank account, and GICs are going to be employed too to try and help the revenue of that group. On the fun side, I attended the holiday train and ITT. This week I have the Mountain View Water Commission, and on Friday, right after the lunch at the shop, I'll be reading in the school.
Okay, Councillor Wing.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, I attended MPC last Wednesday. Not certain we'll have another meeting before Christmas, so that's good. And then just coming up this week, I will actually attend my first face-to-face meeting with the Parkland Regional Library Board Executive in Lacombe. So I'm looking forward to seeing and meeting some of those folks.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Just a couple of things. I also, for a very short time, attended the train. And Grinchmas Christmas, I stopped in to visit the kids there on Saturday, and that was a pretty neat experience, and they had great cookies, so it was good. That's about all I did this past week.
Okay, last week met with Alberta Innovates and Alicia from Red Deer Polytechnique. She's the co-chair of Central Alberta Regional Innovation Network. As CO Becker said, it was a good meeting. Looking forward to more coming out of that. Also had the South Red Deer Regional Wastewater Commission meeting on Friday, our organizational meeting, and then regular meeting. So, of course, the rate of $2.59 was passed at that meeting, and nothing too exciting other than that. Was at the CP holiday train on Saturday. What a great turnout for the community, and thank you to Ken for being there and putting out a great little video today on the event, and it was certainly well attended, and Food Bank seemed to do very well too, so that's good to see. This week I have CAPE meeting, first CAPE meeting, orientation and a board meeting, then the Tagish lunch at the shop on Friday, and then we'll be off to read at the school. So we'll move on to upcoming events. I'll just have somebody make a motion to accept these as information, please.
Mayor Barkley.
I'll make that motion, Mayor Barkley.
Quick. Thank you, Councillor Maceros. All in favor? Okay. And then we will have a motion to go in camera, please.
Mayor Barkley will make that motion that we move in camera.
Thank you, Councillor Dunham. All in favor?